96 hours since anybody has had contact with the steamship El Faro, so we wanted to provide you an update. We really started our search efforts on Friday, and at that time we were not able to get to the vessel's last known position because Hurricane Joaquin was essentially sitting right over it, so we weren't able to get there. On Saturday, we could get to the vessel's last known position, but the search conditions were horrible. We were facing 100-mile-an-hour winds, 40-foot seas, less than a mile visibility. So we really couldn't get a good picture, a good idea of what was out there. Yesterday was the first day where we really had favorable search conditions, and we took advantage of that. We had multiple long-range aircraft out there, including Coast Guard C-130s, an Air Force C-130, and a Navy P-8 aircraft. And I want to just focus on the Navy P-8 aircraft. That's a pretty sophisticated aircraft. We flew it very high, up at 27,000 feet altitude, so it could scan a very wide area. We covered 70,000 square nautical miles yesterday looking for the El Faro. So based on all of that, for our search planning efforts, we are assuming that the vessel has sank. We believe it sank in the last known position that we recorded on Thursday. So what that means, though, we just change our search planning efforts. We are still looking for survivors or any signs of life, any signs of that vessel. We are still doing that. So the search for survivors continues. Yesterday, because of those favorable search conditions, we were able to see a lot of material that was at sea. A lot of things that came from a container ship of that size. So we know we recovered the El Faro's life ring. We also recovered a lifeboat that had the markings of El Faro on it. It was heavily damaged, but it was recovered, no signs of life there. As we went through the day yesterday, we had multiple reports of immersion suits, survival suits that were floating in the water, life rafts, and lifeboats. We had to check each one. We did that methodically because we wanted to make sure there were no signs of life. They were hoping to find a survivor, so we needed to check every one. In one of the survival suits, we did identify human remains in one of the survival suits. We lowered a rescue swimmer to confirm that the person was deceased, and it was basically unidentifiable. We needed to move from there quickly because there were other reports of survival suits as well as lifeboats and life rafts. And we checked those methodically through the day. No other signs of life at this time. So as I mentioned, we are not looking for the vessel any longer. However, today we are still out there searching. We've modified our search efforts to focus more on potential people in the water, lifeboats, and life rafts. So we've kind of brought in that area. There are two primary areas of concern that we're looking at. One debris field, it's about 300 square nautical miles, is in the vicinity of the last known position of the vessel. There's another debris field that's about 60 miles to the north of that one. That's a little bit smaller. It's about 70 square nautical miles. We are searching both of those. We have 3 Coast Guard cutters on scene. There are 3 commercial tugs that were hired by the shipping company, and we have a full schedule of aircraft that are flying all day today. But again, we're going to fly them much lower and focused in on smaller objects at sea. So that is our plan moving forward. We remain hopeful that we will hopefully find survivors. That is our focus as we move forward. Be glad to take a few questions.
What do these lifeboats, in terms of the lifeboats, you've studied the vessel, another type of boat, you recovered one. Can they survive a Category 4, borderline Category 5 hurricane, and what are the expectations, really?
So there were 2 lifeboats that were on the El Faro. They could each hold about 43 people. The one we found had no signs of anyone being in it. What we have to assume as search planners is if the vessel did sink on Thursday and that crew was able to abandon ship, they would have been abandoning ship into a Category 4 hurricane. So you're talking up to 140-mile-an-hour winds, seas upwards of 50 feet, visibility basically at 0. Those are challenging conditions to survive in.
What are these life suits consist of? How can they help somebody in conditions like this?
These survival suits they can float, so they keep you upright. So you can, and they also try to hold off hypothermia. so you can stay warmer a little longer. Because even in warm weather conditions, you're susceptible to hypothermia, and there's only so long you can survive in the ocean.
Are there any type of GPS beacons on those suits or on the lifeboats themselves?
That we don't know.
How many were reported? How many survival suits were reported do you know of might be out there?
The ship had a total of 46 survival suits on board. We've only been be able to locate less than a handful.
How many?
So. So again, in search and rescue, there's an art and a science to it. The science is really just physiologically, how long can you survive in the water? In warm water conditions, that's about 4 to 5 days. Then you kind of look at the art of it as, these are trained mariners. They know how to properly abandon ship. They know how to survive in the water. So we take that into account as well. But we also have to look at the conditions I talked about before. If they were able to abandon ship, it would have been in very challenging conditions, a Category 4 level storm, where they might have been in a life raft or even just in the water directly.
In your experience, how many people have survived the Category storm, the Category 4 hurricane, after not, staying on a ship on a life?
I can't speculate as to that, but we're not going to discount somebody's will to survive, and that's why we're still searching today.